Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But this is a special episode of Newsroom because we'll be highlighting today's day as a black day. As you can see on my left arm, I'm wearing this black band to commemorate my, of course, similarity as far as the points of views of the hapless Kashmiris in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir are concerned. This is going to be our first segment. The Black Day, the 76th anniversary of India's occupation of Jammu and Kashmir on this very day in 1947. 76 years have passed. Nevertheless, the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir still continue to live a life of desperation, still continue to live a life of subjugation without any basic human rights or the rights to decide what they want to do with their lives. This is going to be our first segment. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan that has thwarted firing by India along the working boundary, and this has happened of course in the Zafarwal sector of Sialkot. Also a drone was apprehended by the Pakistani forces there, and it was of course effectively dealt with. Why is India doing this? What is the timing, and is there any importance of the timing? Is it also related somehow to the 76th anniversary? Is it also related somehow to the internal issues that India is facing, and maybe it is also somehow related to other international issues that are prevailing in the world? We will be highlighting that as our second story as well. Our third story concerns a friend of Pakistan, a friend of Pakistan since decades, Excellency Li Keqiang, who has passed away at the age of 68. Former Chinese Premier Mr. Keqiang was a reform-minded bureaucrat, once tipped as the country's future leader, only to be eclipsed by President Xi Jinping. He passed away on a Friday. Today he was 68 years of age. His contributions towards strengthening the relationship between Pakistan and China are paramount in different fields, and also to sustain that strength, that bond we call as ironclad brothers, is something that Mr. Li Keqiang has been effectively a part of in his efforts to not only strengthen Pak-China relations but also to strengthen China as a regional power and as a global power will never be forgotten. This is going to be our third story. We've got two more news stories, and the first concerns the situation as far as Palestine, Gaza is concerned. The World Health Organization has reported 1,000 unidentified bodies in Gaza. No surprise there, and I think the number is going to further increase of the casualties. More than 70,000 people have already been killed by the bombing, by this hapless brutality of the Israeli forces on the people in Gaza, on the people in Palestine, and this is something that the world is watching with no action being taken. More aid trucks are apparently expected to enter Gaza because a lot of countries have sent aid, including Pakistan, but that aid has yet to reach the people in Palestine. What more can I say as far as is concerned? We are aghast at the way the world is reacting to this tragedy. Last story concerns Elon Musk, who has hinted at audio and video calls in Twitter, now known as X. Users await this promised X platform features. If you remember, well, it has already Twitter has already, or X has already started to charge its users around $1 per year. But will the rates be increased? Will these payment options be further extended to other countries of the world? That only time will tell. Nevertheless, the voice and video calls are now planned for Twitter. They are already there in the iOS format in Apple, and also in other formats, but now Twitter adds it to its software. Let's see whether it becomes a success or not. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns the 76th anniversary of the occupation of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Now we call it that, but at that time it was Jammu and Kashmir, by the Indian forces. 76 years have passed, ladies and gentlemen. Still nothing has happened. The people are still under subjugation. The people are still being denied their basic human rights. More in the following report.
Kashmir Black Day signifies the unresolved conflict that continues to engulf South Asian region for the past several decades. As British India gained independence, princely states were given the choice to join either India or Pakistan or to remain independent. Kashmir, under the rule of Maharaja Hari Singh, set aside majority Muslim population's aspirations and decided to join India on 26th of October 1947 that led to widespread unrest and an armed conflict. Pakistan immediately rejected the accession, terming it illegitimate. The dispute over Kashmir has led to several wars between Pakistan and India, with the region witnessing violence and instability. Ceasefire agreements like the 1949 Karachi Agreement and the 1972 Shimla Agreement attempted to address the conflict but did not provide a lasting solution. The line of control established after the 1947 and 48 wars has served as a de facto border between the two countries, though it remains a source of tension and sporadic clashes. One of the most tragic aspects of the Kashmir conflict has been the human rights abuses on the hands of the Indian occupation forces. Extrajudicial killings, torture, enforced disappearances, and restrictions on freedom of movement and expression have marred the lives of Kashmiri civilians under Indian illegally occupation. India has been a stumbling block in implementation of the UN resolutions that call for a plebiscite to determine the region's future. In August 2019, India even went a step ahead and revoked special status of the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that further aggravated the situation. The 27th of October, the Black Day of Kashmir, serves as a reminder of the unresolved conflict and the suffering of the Kashmiri people. It underscores the urgent need for sustained international attention and efforts to address this humanitarian issue. Reporting for PTV World, Musharraf Zahoor.
We discuss this day, the importance of this day, and the fact that 76 years have passed and still we have a huge population of Kashmiris that are subjugated under the forceful, brutal occupation of India. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. One is in the studios, one is online. In the studios, we've got Altaf Hussain Wani sahab, is a Kashmiri leader and a frequent guest, but he returns to our show after a long hiatus. So thank you very much, Wani sahab, and welcome to Newsroom. Our second guest is online. He is none other than Dr. Waleed Rasool. He's also a Kashmiri leader and also somebody who we really respect a lot, and his opinion counts a lot for us and I'm sure for our viewers as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Waleed Rasool, to have joined us. Let's begin with you, Wani Saab. Wani Saab, when you look at this conflict and 76 years have passed since the Indian forces usurped this area that we now call Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, countless resolutions, countless documents, countless speeches later, even you yourself have gone to Brussels, to other countries across the world to highlight the Kashmir issue. What is the normal international reaction? Why don't we see a resolution? Why don't we see an end to the plight of the people of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir?
Thank you, Batsab. You have posed such a question that we always ask the people around the globe why there is double standards with the people of Jammu and Kashmir, why people of Kashmir have been waiting for the implementation of the UN resolutions, because it was the United Nations Security Council which at that time enforced the ceasefire when the people of Kashmir were themselves resisting against the forces of Maharaja, as well as when Indian forces landed in Kashmir and they occupied the Kashmir on the pretext of a fake document which was not there. But at that time, United Nations surveillance and they established a ceasefire when the Kashmiris themselves were marching ahead. We had the Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir liberated from those forces, and we were marching ahead. But at that time, international community swung in on the India's request. India went with the plea that Maharaja of Kashmir has signed an instrument of agreement with them, which which United Nations Security Council did not accept any of the Indian claims, and they passed resolution that matter should be referred to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They will decide their political future, whether they want to accede to India or to Pakistan. But unfortunately, India at that time did agree to it, and one thing which they achieved at that time, that was the ceasefire. the ceasefire they achieved, and that kept a block in our advancement to liberate the whole of Jammu and Kashmir at that time. But since then, India made then different tactics to cement their occupation in occupied Kashmir, but again until 1957, United Nations Security Council again came to rescue the people of Kashmir and said that all those actions which India took are invalid and there should be a Palestine in Kashmir on total. But unfortunately, lately we saw a swing in the international relations, in the international arena. Those who were the supporters of Kashmiris or Pakistan, they had the other ways. They were more leaned towards their strategic interests, their economic interests and all that. And slowly and steadily they changed the goalposts. Although they did not recognize Indian occupation on the territory, but slowly and steady their stand and their way of talking about India, that was not that strong, and that encouraged India day by day, encouraged the Indian system, Indian governments, the governments which came into India one after another, that encouraged them to enforce their occupation through brute force. They enforced the occupation in brute force. People of Kashmir always resisted that occupation, but the international community did not know, even the Pakistanis did not know, because at that time there was no media, there was no such thing that we could communicate each other, we could send the things, you could read the papers or you could have the social media access, there was no access. But the people continued to resist, and until 89, when the people said that now enough is enough, we should call it a day now. And also people, there was a public uprising against the Indian occupation. Then the people of Kashmir resorted to the means that the Indians wanted to see at that time. And thereafter we saw again the way the Indians crushed this movement. We saw lots of reports of international human rights organizations, we saw lots of condemnation by international organizations, but no accountability of India till date. That's why in the 76th year...
Isn't the main question, why is there no accountability? When it comes to so many other regional conflicts, everybody across the world is the first to jump in and pinpoint the fingers and do the needful. What happens when it comes to India and illegally occupied?
So India became slowly and gradually, India became a big economic power. They achieved that economic connectivity, and they had something in their human resource, a huge human resource and all that. So we could see, and again the rise of China on one hand, that was another way that West and others, they were promoting India in order to curtail China. This is another the way which came into the which did not.
But Wani Saab, with due respect, you can have good or bad relations with any country, you can promote it, but not on the pretext or not by putting aside all the human rights abuses that it is doing. They can
say in international relations nothing is free. There is no free lunch. As we say, and international relations, the sovereign states and the countries, they have these human rights laws or human rights systems are only just to satisfy their own will wherever they want to implement them. Otherwise, these resolutions, these laws, unless and until they have a force behind it, they have no meaning. For Palestine, in your intro, you discussed about Palestine, how many resolutions we have, and day by day there are resolutions. And you only yesterday saw the human rights report, which was put in the how did the Israeli delegate tore it down and said this is rubbish, we don't want it to see. He even did not see to that. That is the way the power matters. That power the people who control narrative, the people who control economy, the people who control strategy, that matters, and those unfortunately those are on the side of India at this time. But let me tell you, despite all this, what has been happening in Kashmir for the last 76 years, the way the repression, the military repression continued in Kashmir, over 100,000 people were killed in aftermath of 89, and 10,000 disappeared people and all that. And after 5th of August, you saw the way India started warfare, legal warfare in Kashmir against Kashmiris for their settler colonialism, changed demography and changed the political as well as the religious landscape in Kashmir. India thinks that we have done all. India thinks that we have done all. Let me tell the Indians that you might have, you have humiliated us, you have tortured us, you have vilified us, but you can't defeat us.
Exactly.
We are still resisting and we will continue to resist against your occupation. Kashmiris know how to live under these circumstances.
Inshallah, inshallah. Dr. Waleed Rasool, you've been hearing patiently our discussion with Wani Saab. I'd like to understand the different laws that are in place, whether it be the UAPA, whether it be the TADA, whether it be POTA or other black laws that are implicated or present currently in the Indian held valley, and all the other brutalities that are happening on the people of the Indian held valley. Can anyone go to, for example, the International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court in order to highlight these brutalities?
Thank you, sir. I think Wani Saab had put it right, and he had given already some suggestions too. But as far as you are talking about ICJ, the state is an actor and party to the ICJ. This is the one major issue. Number two, there are so many complexities in the international order. The complexities of the modern conflict is one of the major component. The resources constraints to the ICJ, that they are often talking that the both parties shall first agree, then we will take up any issue. And number third is the neutrality and the consent. When you are talking about the International Court of the Justice, if you will review their verdicts in early phases, their neutrality issue remained always mega. To those scholars who closely watch the pace and problem of the international law. And fifth is the political will. There should be a political will from both sides, that is from Indian side, and Pakistan is already willing. And number fifth, the important and most important thing is that when we are moving to any higher authority, what sort of groundwork we must have before we consult it. And number sixth, which is a very important one, that until and unless both not agree, the ICJ will not take up the issue. Now, there are so many international law that the scholars who teach the international law are divided into groups. One say international law is no law because there is not implementing authority. United Nations do not have of its own forces. She has to withdraw her forces from any member country. So again, the neutrality and the consent issue remains. And third is the eighth issue is the accountability and conduct and the ownership of the international law who will implement it. So there are so many complexities, but what is the actual situation which we have to understand? The law is not required to the powerful. Powerful imposes her law by power. It is always requirement of the weaker party. So the Kashmir conflict is an internationally recognized dispute, and UN resolution is an FIR. So it is a test of our resilience, how maximum pain we can sustain by the occupier, by the hegemon. And number third, there are the multidimensional issues when you have been seeing that the freedom movements are going on. For example, the freedom movement of the Indian, in which the Muslims were included, it took 100 years them to get the British colonial out. And now, and I will quote you again, the Indian father of the nation, that is the Mahatma Gandhi. He himself says that it is always difficult to say power to the truth. When they were colonized by British, they were suffocating. And now, when we are colonized by India, we are suffocating. Now, what is the way out? What how we can achieve our goal is very important. That is speed is not important in the movements. It is the direction. Or direction of the Kashmir movement is in the right side. And ultimately, I will convey you that despite of what India is claiming, and Indian tolls are big, they are claiming something big, that we have curtailed, we have put Kashmiris in the pressure cooker, and nobody is allowed to move to and fro, and they have killed the movement. It is not reality. Reality is this, that still there is more than 800,000 troops stationed, installed with full military hardware in Indian occupied Kashmir. And this is the current situation of the mighty India in occupied Kashmir.
Exactly,
And
I
definitely
think
we
the world
have
knows, Dr. Waleed Rasool, the world knows the situation as far as the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, but they just turned a blind eye. They don't want to see, they don't want to know, they don't want to learn. They want to let India do whatever it is doing. And of course, as a lot of experts are saying, India is on the 8th stage of genocide, and this is what is going to happen if the necessary action is not taken. Thank you very much, Dr. Waleed Rasool Kashmiri, to have joined us online to discuss, of course, the 76th anniversary of India's occupation of Jammu and Kashmir. Wani Saab, what about the International Criminal Court? Do you feel it can have any kind of an impact on it? What about the OIC? What about the Arab League? There have been statements that have come out today as well from the OIC. But do mere statements matter? What needs to be done? Can Pakistan play an important role? Can Arab nations play an important role?
See, the first thing is that these statements do have their own value. It is not that they are valueless. They have their own value, the statements by OIC. There can be many differences among the OIC states, but when it comes to Kashmir, they have differences over Palestine issue, but they don't have any difference on the Kashmir issue. They are one on Kashmir issue. They do issue the statements or any of the resolution unanimously on Kashmir. There is never any dispute on that. So we should value on that. But the thing is, on the other side is that we have to see the current, the international order, how this international order is running, how it is going on, and how what implications it has. Each and every state has its own position on this international understanding. Each and every state has their own, their stake in this international order. So they think like that. But for us, for Kashmiris or for the Pakistan will have to, first of all, we have been seeing in Pakistan how India became more arrogant in these last 4 or 5 years because of the political instability in Pakistan that led to the economic crunch in Pakistan. So that made India more arrogant on this line. Otherwise, India could have not done what India is currently doing. So in building Pakistan, we need our younger generation, and we people will have to think on it, how to create a political stability in Pakistan and rebuild Pakistan on economic lines. That's one. The other is on the Kashmir front. I think the media, when we talk about media, you see how the current mass in the Gaza Strip and Israel-Gaza conflict, the way it was and how the Western media projected it at the international level, showing that what Hamas did, that was a terrorism and all that, did not show how the Israel was doing the terrorism there. So that is exactly the Indian media, which is a very strong media,
shows one side of the picture.
They show one side of the picture, and unfortunately for us. They have this picture in different languages. They have entered into the kitchens, into the drawing rooms of the different nations through their media, dubbing all the documentaries, all those fake, whatever the propaganda they make in Arabic, in French, in Spanish and other languages, thereby telling the people the lie, and then people start believing it because there is no counter narrative to that. I have been telling to it that we need to create, and unfortunately when I say we, I mean Pakistan, because Kashmiris don't have those resources and that thing to do, they can do themselves, but Pakistan will have to think on it to counter the Indian narrative. At presently, internationally, we don't have a narrative to sell to counter that Indian narrative, what India is doing currently at international stage. So that should be also in the line with what we need, and how to on one side to defeat the Indian propaganda, on the other side to achieve what we want to achieve. That is the most important thing we should do currently.
I think that is very important, and I hope that the Islamic world is listening, that the Arab world is listening, because Pakistan is doing enough. Pakistan inshallah will do more as well to help our Kashmiri brethren politically, morally, diplomatically, and will continue to highlight the plight of the people as we are doing right now on this television channel. Thank you very much, Altaf Hussain Wani sir, Kashmiri leader, to have joined us. I'll end this segment with the 2 or 3 statements, one by the National Assembly Speaker Raja Parvez Ashraf, who has said that Kashmir is an unfinished agenda of the subcontinent's partition plan, and the second statement by Omar Abdullah, who has, as per the Kashmir Media Service, addressing a one-day delegate session in Poonch, says India takes pride in calling itself the mother of democracy on global stages, but the same democracy fails to reach Jammu and Kashmir. Pluralism, democracy, 2 words that currently really do not suit India when it talks about these attributes as far as this country is concerned. More after this short break. Stay tuned. Let's begin with our second story, and that also concerns India. You must have seen the images of the drone that entered Pakistani airspace from the Indian space, B, the intense firing that happened last night on the Sialkot border between Pakistan and India. And of course the timing of it is very suspicious, because of course it is the 76th anniversary of India's occupation of Jammu and Kashmir. Then there are also a lot of internal politics that India is grappling with. Therein also there is the elections that are going to be held in India, and India as usual always plays the Pakistan card when it comes to anything that connects any internal rift between different parties or different communities within India, and then it externalizes it and pinpoints everything to Pakistan. This is what we call the Pakistan card. This is what India has been using through false flag operations, through other things, and of course this seems to be another step in that direction. To talk about different aspects of this Indian firing along the working boundary of the drone that was of course caught entering Pakistani airspace from India, we've been joined by 2 guests. Our first guest is in the studio, Kaswar Klasra, senior journalist. Thank you very much, Kaswar, to have joined us. Our second guest is online Air Marshal retired Saeed Muhammad Khan. He's a defense analyst, and of course we'll be talking to him during the course of the show as well. Kaswar, let's begin with you. Kaswar, why resort to firing? Why resort to firing on a Thursday evening on the eve of the 76th anniversary of India's occupation of Jammu and Kashmir? And how do you see Pakistan's response, Pakistan's swift response to this Indian firing?
Well, Umar, thank you for having me in the show once again. You have rightly pointed out that a lot of things are going on in India, and definitely internal pressure on the Modi government as well. And not only it was a provocative act to deviate world's attention from internal issues Modi government is facing at the moment, but also let me draw your attention to what happened there in Qatar to some of Indian officials as well. So international pressure is also over there at the Modi government as well. And don't forget what happened to Indian side there in in Manchester and last year. And so the internal affairs, and as well as coupled with the pressure on Modi's government from the international borders, international countries as well. So these are the factors at play. That is perhaps the facts. The Modi government has resorted to firing on line of control as well. But you have talked about the befitting response by the Pakistani forces. It was timely action, it was timely reaction, and the way they responded, I am glad. I am totally glad that the way the Pakistani forces, Rangers responded to them. Definitely, there is a proverb in Urdu, "Laton ke bhoot baaton se nahi mante," and it was happened last night. And the way the Pakistani forces responded, it was superb reaction as well. So I think you asked about why this time. Definitely internal factors, and then what happened there in Manipur, we all know, and also the Modi government is under pressure from the Congress as well. So internal affairs, and as well as the pressure on Modi's government from the international borders as well. So I think that could be the foremost factor behind this resorting of firing across LOC as well. But our forces have been reacting sharply to the Indian provocative act as well. Don't forget what happened to Kulbhushan Yadav. Don't forget the way we responded to their provocative actions in Jammu and Kashmir a couple of years ago, and they came and they targeted Crow. They came inside, they targeted Crow. Whether it was killed or not, I don't know. But the way our Pakistan Air Force responded to them, it's a history that Indian side cannot forget as well. So definitely they acted, and there was a befitting response from Pakistan's forces. I'm so glad.
The fact is, Kaswar, that I fail to understand, despite the different olive branches that Pakistan has given to India, come to the talks, we'll discuss all the issues, including the issue of the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Let's talk it out, let's find a durable solution to issues and then move forward and work together. India has not only never agreed to talk on the table on all these important issues, but it has tried to undermine Pakistan on all the international fora, whether it be at the United Nations, whether it be on the other regional fora. What does India want to achieve through indiscriminate firing, through attitude, this belligerent attitude that it is portraying, not since now, but since quite some time?
Omar, forget everything. You talked about the olive branches Pakistan offered in the past as well. But what to talk about the biggest olive branch? Our Pakistan's national cricket team is playing there in, playing World Cup right now over there in India. But given that what happened to, I think, Asia Cup, but the fact is that they did not send their team to Pakistan to attend Asia Cup as well. But it was the biggest olive branch that have been offered by Pakistan at the moment. They have been running from pillar to the post, but still Pakistan have acted as a responsible state. Let me tell you, Omar, actually India has acted as a terror state. Let me tell you, that is a fact.
And has
they have, yes, exactly.
For a long time.
They have very cordial relationship with the countries in Middle East, and Qatar is top of the list as well. But they did not spare Qatar. I sometimes fail to understand who's governing India. So-called was the biggest democracy. They did not spare Qatar, their biggest ally in Middle East. You know what happened? A court of Qatar was forced to give sentence to serving officials of Indian Army as well. So I think their attitude and their actions of that of a terrorist state, and when a terrorist state act, definitely whether it's a forum at United Nations or other things as well, I believe India is getting befitting response from the Pakistani sides right now, and you have rightly pointed out that we have given a number of OLED branches, but they did not listen the language of peace. Definitely the Pakistani sides will have to reconsider their action as well. But the way last night the Pakistan security forces responded to their provocative act, it is something that has make people like me it is called in Urdu. Exactly. We are very happy, extremely happy, because they deserve this side of reaction from the Pakistani side, and they were not expectant, by the way.
But the fact also remains that they continue to do machinations such as these. Then there was a drone that entered near the Charwa sector at the border area, was shot down by the troops. We all remember the missile that was unarmed that entered Pakistani airspace some time back as well. And still we want to know what happened as far as the investigations in that is concerned. When it comes to Pakistan, they put baseless allegations on Pakistan. When it comes, whether it be on a pigeon, who is spying, whether it be through false flag operations saying that Pakistan is behind, things like that, even Pulwama, and there is a whole list of maneuvering that India is doing to implicate Pakistan one way or the other, to portray it as the bad guy.
The good thing is, Omar, that even now sane voices within India have raised their voices as well. I think it is the beginning of the downfall of Modi's government. I will stress again on the point that when our team is playing there in India, but at the time of the fact you have resorted to firing across the line of control. It's a stupidity. It's the biggest blunder that Modi government have made time and again as well.
What can we say, Kaswar Klasra? We've been joined by Brigadier Nadir Mir online as well. He's a defense analyst. Brigadier Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. It had been some time that we had talked on our show. Brigadier Sahab, how do you see these the indiscriminate firing across the line of control, then the drone entering the Pakistani airspace? What kind of message is India trying to give Pakistan?
Indian adventurism or aggression is an ever-present threat for Pakistan. It is an existential threat, whether of minor scale, tactical, very tactical as this, or minor tactical, or even on a large scale. Basically, this right now what is happening is related to many things. One, it is related to India globally. As you can see, recently India has been unnerved by what has happened with India-Canada, which is virtually in a diplomatic war, with 41 Canadian diplomats being expelled, and its relations with the Western world, in turmoil, India's relations, despite America's support, previously to India and all that. Recently in Hamas and Israel war, as you've noticed, in the Arab world and the Gulf and the Muslim world, all sympathies are with Palestine naturally, and more recently India has been supporting Israel, and then you see, connect the dots, you see what has happened in Qatar, that the Indians have been, who have been caught spying and all that, and they've been punished. This is the swear punishment, that is death by hanging and all that. So India is basically unnerved, and its so-called rise, which it was trying to project globally, it is in tatters, and these are going to escalate besides Khalistan and Kashmir and all the other things which is happening within India. So this is one part of the agenda, which is upsetting the Delhi regime. The other is that the elections which are coming in April of 2024, Modi's government, and all the India's internal political, dynamics. So it has to beat up the drum against Pakistan, always Kashmir and Pakistan. Pakistan is the enemy, scapegoat. Remember 2019 it did it. So Pakistan has to be ready against any kind of Indian aggression, and Pakistan armed forces have just shown it yesterday, today. They are always ready not only to repel Indian aggression, but even have the ability to go into India and strike them if need be.
That is so true, and I'm sure that India realizes what it is doing, and the world, it can turn a blind eye, but it cannot, not take into cognizance what India has been doing, especially when it comes to Pakistan, not only implicating Pakistan, denigrating Pakistan, degrading Pakistan, implicating Pakistan in one false operation after the other, or of course doing operations such as these. But of course it should also know that it will always be met and dealt with a severe response, if not an equal response to any incursion that it does now, yesterday or tomorrow. Thank you very much, Brigadier Nadami, to have joined us and to have talked to us about this incident that happened on the working boundary in Sialkot. Thank you very much, Kaswar, to have joined us and to have come to us all the way to the studios. It's a pleasure to always talk to you.
Thank you.
Let's come to our next story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns a sad event that has happened today. In fact, a friend of Pakistan, a friend of Pak-China relations, and a proponent of the strengthening of the relationship between Pakistan and China has left us for a higher abode. Former Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, a reform-minded bureaucrat once tipped as the country's future leader, now has passed away. Today, he was 68 years of age. He had a heart attack on Thursday, passed away in Shanghai just after midnight. State-run news agency Xinhua announced this. We've been joined by Dr. Mahmood Ul Hasan. He's a regional expert. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. Dr. Saab, Mr. Li Keqiang and his efforts not only for strengthening Pakistan-China relations but also for China can never be forgotten. How do you see his role in the region? How do you see his role as a Chinese leader?
First of all, we offer our true sentiments on the demise of the great leader, the former Prime Minister of China. Today, he was the pioneer of one of the pioneer of CPEC, and he signed lot of mega projects of CPEC during his tenure from 2013 to 2023. He was the pioneer of economic reforms, rather the integrated, meaningful, constant economic reforms in China, which transformed the microeconomy of China in terms of free market economy, in terms of innovation, smarter economy, knowledge-based economy, the productive economy. And he also introduced a very comprehensive holistic policy against corruption, environmental pollution, and he was one of the pioneers of climate change policy of China. In terms of regional scenario or aspects, he extended his unconditional support to government of Pakistan and people of Pakistan in all the difficult times, and he was the staunch supporter of Pakistan government efforts towards the eradication of terrorism, fanaticism, and the fight against poverty. He played an effective, rather instrumental role for the socio-economic prosperity of Pakistan. He has been all out to support Pakistan, not on different regions.
That is so true, Dr. Mahmood. That is so true, and the role of Mr. Li Keqiang will never be forgotten. He will always have a special place in the hearts of Pakistani people and in the hearts of the Chinese people as well. Thank you so very much, Dr. Mahmood Ul Hasan, regional expert, to have joined us to talk us, to eulogize the passing away of a great Chinese leader, Excellency Li Keqiang. He was 68. Let's come to our last two stories, ladies and gentlemen. The first concerns the Israeli-Palestine issue that is gaining momentum since the 7th of October. The number of casualties have surpassed 7,000. And the number is increasing with every passing day, although the fact remains that there are reports that more aid will be entering Gaza, will be entering Palestine, but still there are no confirmations as far as that is concerned. Israel still continues to block Gaza by denying access of water, food and electricity to it. The world still more or less is mildly trying to do something to end this conflict, but will anything happen? Will this turn into a mass exodus or a mass killing of people of Gaza, of Palestine? That time will tell, and what the reaction will come, that also time will tell. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns social media of the world, of the internet, if we say that. Now, X, previously known as Twitter, is adding new functionalities to its application, and that includes early version of video and audio calling. This was confirmed by Elon Musk in a post that contained a screen capture showing him how to turn the feature on in the platform's setting. Now, there are so many other softwares like Meta that is using through Facebook, that is using audio and video calls. There are other WhatsApp is using that as well. So of course it's a welcome addition, but will users be charged in the long run as far as these functionalities are concerned? Will it work as good as the other functionalities on other softwares do? Well, we will see in the days to come, and the reaction will be very swift on Twitter through the posts. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. This is a Friday, so of course the weekend is in front of us. Have a great one. Be with your loved ones. Try to avoid anything that could cause conjunctivitis or dengue, because these things are rampant as we speak. And of course, make the best of this weekend. We'll see you inshallah on Monday. Allah Hafiz.